public participation we move to now. And the first two items are in relation to the Upper Riccarton War Memorial Library. So I'd like to invite Mark Gerard, Chair of Historic Places Canterbury, to give a public forum presentation regarding that matter. Thank you, Mark.
Mayor and Councillors, thank you for allowing me to make this presentation. Historic Places Canterbury has concerns about the process leading up to and the decision to demolish the Upper Riccarton War Memorial Library. Our major concerns are the following: lack of extensive community engagement. HPC considers the community and stakeholders should have had a say in the future of this iconic building on site since 1918. After HPC raised its concerns publicly, a Christchurch RSA has been in touch expressing an interest. For myself, within a minute of finishing live my interview with Radio New Zealand's Jesse Mulligan, a property developer, rang asking about strengthening and costs. There is an interest in the community. HBC has received an unusually large number of emails expressing opposition to the proposed demolition. HBC has been told that regular ANZAC services with an attendance of 200 odd people, chairs lent by the adjacent Spagholinis, and a local bakery opening up early to supply food. The question really is, why will the SCC not work with the community to retain and determine a future for this building? Our second concern is no heritage assessment was included in the report to Council. The Council Heritage team did not provide a formal heritage assessment of the building. The question needs to be raised, why were they not asked? A 1919 building called the Upper Riccarton War Memorial, any reasonable Christchurch resident would conclude it should be assessed by the Council Heritage team before a recommendation to demolish. Surely, the CC should be leading by example. This is a case where leadership was required. Some of the councils may recall similar circumstances occurred with the Yildhurst Memorial Hall. We were given assurances then that it would not happen again. Stating the building was not listed with the Heritage New Zealand Baheri Tamahiri or scheduled in the district plan, so it has little heritage relevance. The cost, no economic use as assessed by the report's authors, are similar arguments used by property developers when they plan to demolish. Surely the Christchurch City Council can do better and lead by example. Our third concern is the council heritage strategy, our heritage, our taonga. I can find no reference to the strategy in the report to council. The question is being asked, what is the value of this much consulted and supported strategy? That a 1919 War Memorial Library building does not warrant an assessment, yet alone a reference to the strategy in a CC report. Jock Phillips, in his book To the Memory, observed there was a transition from sculptural monuments, that's the South African Wars, World War I, to living memorials, like with the numerous World War II memorial halls. This library building, a living World War I memorial, the first of 7, could be significant. It awaits the Christchurch Heritage team to make this assessment. Councillors, thank you very much.
Thank you. There are a couple of minutes left. Does anyone have a question for Mark? Yanni.
Thank you. Are you calling on us to reverse our decision to demolish it, or asking for a pause in the demolition to enable those alternative solutions to be looked at?
We're asking for a decision to reverse the decision to demolish and work with the community to find a future use for this building. That would be our primary argument.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have one,
Pauline.
please.
Yes, Pauline.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I just want to say that I think if the community board had perhaps made a different recommendation to us, I might have personally looked at this more carefully. So I kind of apologise for that. But it seemed to me from memory that part of the issue was the cost of the repairs of the existing building. Can you see any way that there could be perhaps some sort of partnership formed to help the affordability of that?
Well, this is why the comment made by Councillor Kerr is about working with the community to find a future use of the building. As was raised, we got immediate interest once we raised that issue. As I said, I've got one organisation which expressed an interest and a property developer straight away. So obviously there is real interest in the community. but they really didn't have an opportunity, as the report says. There was no need for public engagement to work with the community to determine a use for the building and its future.
Right, oh, that's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know that staff, I've got a question for staff, but I wonder whether we should hear the other submission first, because the two of them are so integrally linked. So thank you very much, Mark, for your participation this morning. It's very helpful. And I'll move on to Ross Gray, Chair of the Christchurch Civic Trust, on the same matter. He should be just joining now. Good morning, Ross. I'm just inviting you to present on the matter of the Upper Riccarton War Memorial Library. We've just heard from Historic Places Canterbury, Mark Gerard, and before I get staff to comment, I'm going to invite you to present your public forum presentation as well. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. Good morning, Mayor Dalzell and City Councillors. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good. Christchurch Civic Trust considers that against a backdrop of war in Ukraine, the matters around this War Memorial Library and its future take on a special focus. The life of war memorials, they are not made for the short haul. They should be as everlasting as is humanly possible. Once set in stone, as it were, they manifest memory and emotion through time, as with the Upper Riccarton War Memorial Library since 1919. War memorials are material things, some as buildings which are just as sacrosanct as statues. The shameful example of the demolition of the Christchurch Technical College War Memorial Hall in 2014, it must never be repeated in Christchurch. Their materiality is part of the climate change knife's edge we're on. As Councillor Johansson said, in effect, the greenest building is the one standing. We must conserve and not demolish. They are about collective memory. As Chris McCann's letter, which you were all sent on the 28th of February says, and George lies now forever in a foreign field, but he is remembered in that library building, which was once the heart of the rural community he grew up in. The War Memorial Library is about, this War Memorial Library is about real people and their stories. 38 Upper Riccarton young men who fought and died, including Chris's uncle George. Alongside George's name on the library honours board are 4 Upper Riccarton Rexworthy brothers, one killed in 1916, 2 in 1917, and 1 in 1942. Imagine it, the immense grief, but also the consolation that those 4 names were engraved and enshrined in the heart of Upper Riccarton. But further, Rexworthy Street, named in their honour, is the only street in an Upper Riccarton development of the 1960s on land bought from Pinegould Guinness, which was not to be named after a PGG employee. This is all about deep meaning, about remembrance and stories, identity and memories, and is beyond mere dollars. Christchurch Civic Trust cannot command Christchurch City Council to retain and restore the Upper Riccarton War Memorial Library building as a memorial, but it can and does recommend that the decision to demolish be reversed, and it can and will commend the council should it act to do so. Ngā mihi.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Ross? Oh, Melanie.
Hi, Ross. Did you speak to the Hallswell Hornby Riccarton Community Board when they made their decision or recommendation to council?
No, Melanie, I'm sorry, I didn't. Amongst the very many things which the Civic Trust and other heritage groups have to try and keep an eye on, it is something which I'd have to say, only dimly aware of, that there were things happening at the library, and I very much regret that I didn't get a chance to speak to that body. But I have spoken to Ainsley Walter since, and she has given me a long story about the struggles which the Library Trust had been through over the years, and I felt a great deal of sympathy for her and her colleagues.
Just in terms of the the status that it isn't listed with the Historic Places Trust or in the district plan. Do you feel that had it been part of that consideration at the time that we did the district plan, and had it been in council ownership, that perhaps we would have approached that in a different way?
Melanie, yes, I do, definitely. And it is a somewhat of a mystery why the building was never considered for either listing with HNZ or scheduling with the City Council. But I note, folks, that the architect was one Roy Lovell-Smith, who in 1905, having finished his training with George Hart, who was the architect of the Millers Building, which of course was the former City Council building, that Roy set up practice in 1905, and he was the youngest member of the newly formed New Zealand Institute of Architects. So he was a very considerable architect, and that building, I think, is a legacy of his, which I think certainly should be considered.
Yeah, we've gone to time, but
Yes.
I see Phil Major's got his hand up, so I will allow one more question.
Sorry, Phil, I'm just trying to pick where you are.
G'day, Ross. Thank you very much.
Oh, hello, Phil.
Just one question. Did I read somewhere that the RSA was showing some interest in going there because the poor guys have got nowhere to live anymore? Is that?
Yes. Yes. Phil, as I understand it, the RSA possibly has been in communication with you people. I've spoken to the president, Dennis Mardell, who expressed the view that they are very keen to find a new home and are very interested in that. But I don't know what's gone on in the background, if anything, but hopefully something can come of that, certainly. Yes.
Thank you very much. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I think I've got Bruce on the line.
I'm not sure if he is here
Oh.
at the moment. I'm
Sorry, I was expecting Bruce to be on the line, but he was on the line earlier, but I don't know that he is now. So if I can repeat from memory what I understand he would have said if he had been here, is that, an undertaking from the organisation that there will be no steps taken to demolish the building while issues around future use and funding sources for potentially alternative resolutions to the demolition one can be resolved. So I want to thank both you, Mark and Ross, for presenting to us this morning. And it does enable us to take stock and to take the matter offline and review the situation. So, of course, if council needs to revisit the resolution that it passed, based on the advice that we had at the time, and if that advice subsequently is able to be reviewed also in line with future use options and funding options, then we'll be able to bring it back. And I'm glad I asked that question, Ross. It wasn't Melanie, about the question of whether the status would have been different had it been included for consideration in the district plan at the time. Bruce Rendell has just arrived. So, Bruce, I hope that you're going to say what I just said, but I'll leave it to you. The Riccarton War Memorial Library, just in terms of reassurance around plans to demolish at this stage.
Sorry, was that aimed at me, Leanne? Bruce here.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So we're certainly aware that there's some differing views. Where we have a duty to put your decisions into effect in a timely way, but I've committed to you in writing and commit again today that we won't do anything that we will regret and that can't be reversed without coming back to you. And that's certainly important because one of my next meetings is to meet with the RSA, who have come to us with a potential reuse proposal. So I'm meeting with them very, very soon today to have that. And we're open to reuse proposals as well if others have got them, and certainly can help bring funds to this matter.
Yeah. Okay. So
Bruce.
we're working on a no regrets basis at this stage. So there isn't the urgency to implementing the decision. So that's very good. Pauline, did you have another question or?
Just quickly, what I've heard today, I would consider as new information, Leanne.
Yeah,
so I'd be really happy to revisit it.
You might have seen that was how I was framing the conversation. Thank you. Jimmy, is that I'm not opening it up for debate.
Not debate, just ask a question. Bruce, I remember I sent an email to you because this facility is still not yet in the council on the heritage discipline review list. You told me that it will reply to me. What is update status?
Sorry, I missed that too, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand the last bit. You
because this facility, even we mentioned this memorial heritage building has not yet on the council.
No, that was the
list.
point.
When will be initiated?
That was the point that I was raising. So that is not something that Bruce can answer because he's not on the district plan team. So
but I sent an email to Bruce about 3 weeks ago. Bruce told me that would like to engage a heritage one. I have not yet get an answer.
Right. It's not a good idea to send emails to individual staff members in case you send it to the wrong one. So that's why we use the Office of the CE. But I'm not going to hold up the meeting with a lecture on how to communicate for official information within the organisation. So thank you very much, Mark and Ross. I hope that gives you some comfort that your representations have allowed things to be put on hold in the sense that there is a no regrets zone now applying to any decision around the Upper Riccarton War Memorial Library. So thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you very much, Leanne, and to councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, the next one is the Governor's Bay Jetty. Oh, sorry, Chris Dowdney, who's now there is a, so welcome to Chris Dowdney, who's just come online. Councillors may not know yet, but we have got a summary submission from Chris, which is on the, it's on the website. I don't know why I'm doing that, but Chris, you need to turn the live streaming off your computer because you're causing this feedback, I think.
Doing that, but
Chris, you need to turn the live streaming off your computer because you're causing this feedback, I think. So much for live streaming.
It's delayed streaming, isn't it? Oh, yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
You really are.
for live streaming.
I believe I have done that.
No, it's still happening. I think we're going to have to perhaps put. Okay, that you've got it now. Thank you. Proceed.
Hello, everyone. This has been put together in something of a rush, but I'm writing to you as a City Council and Mayor regarding 86A Beachville Road. It's a 6-unit social housing site in Redcliffe. After the earthquakes, the council was intent upon evicting the tenants and selling the site. But in fact, that was after some local fuss. That was reversed, and the flats remained available to their tenants. Now that an old friend of ours, the tenant of 86A Beachville Road, has moved into a rest home, we've not had a lot to do with the property, so it's a great shock to see it advertised for sale by Bailey's by deadline treaty concluding on the 17th of March. To sell a prime site to finance development in a poor location elsewhere is shockingly bad, I think, social housing policy. I'm surprised it's a policy adhered to by the council. We should have social housing spread right through the city. Furthermore, the present property managers demolished the 10 single-person units also on the site at the time of the earthquakes, when they could have been repaired and upgraded or replaced. They could still be replaced. To lose social housing with the aim of rebuilding elsewhere instead of upgrading the existing building is a very unsustainable approach, let alone the high cost of carrying out the process, that is the cost of sale, professional fees, land cost, rebuilding elsewhere. Not much of the money raised by the sale of the site will actually remain in actual social housing provision. The earthquake caused the loss of many elderly persons' homes in Redcliffe, and 86A Beachville Road remains a key surviving element in the suburb. I'm aware that the council has sort of an overall responsibility, and its trust overall responsibility to consider local priorities. Not at all, but local priorities are important, and local organisations, the Redcliffe Residents Association, for example, are available to consult and recommend with regard to the mix of tenants and the ongoing maintenance of these properties. The main point of my submission to you is to inquire whether the council is aware of the current loss of this social housing, and whether even at this late stage the action can be reversed and maybe some pressure be put upon the Housing Trust to reverse their decision. Social housing is important to the city, and it's equally important to Redcliffe. And that is my submission.
Right. Thank you very much. There's a couple of minutes, but you made it quite clear that you understand that the land is no longer the council's. It has been transferred to the Otatahi Community Housing Trust, and they're selling it for raising capital for new social housing developments.
Yes, I am aware of that. I think that not much of the sale price would actually end up in social housing. I think it's a shame.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Bruce is on the line, and so is Dawn. If you need any stuff.
Okay. Tim.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your submission. With regards to it, in your comment that not much of the sale price will be going to social housing, I mean, I would presume that all of the money would be put back from that sale is to be put back into social housing as it's being developed. And, you know, to say into poor areas, I mean, there are some very good areas that we have social housing, the trusts have social housing, Summerfield, Spraydon, Hoon Hay, there are a whole lot of areas, St Martins, for instance. But with regards to your comment about not going to social housing, where is it going?
Well, it's going firstly in fees to Bailey's, probably about 40 or 50,000. It's going to the development of a new housing somewhere else. At the moment,
that new housing is social housing, wouldn't it be?
Probably, yes. I presume it would be, but there'll be a lot of costs involved in establishing social housing somewhere else when we've got a 6 unit here now and the site, which could well be developed for further 10 or 11 units.
Were these units developed after the earthquakes? Were they demolished during the earthquakes and rebuilt?
No, they're the remaining existing 2-story building on the site. 1 unit of that was taken down, so there were 7. There are now 6, and there are 10 other single-bedroom units also on the site, which were damaged, and instead of being repaired and upgraded, they were demolished.
Yeah.
So there are only 6 left on quite a large and desirable site.
Yes, there's new flood levels that apply there as well. So some of the challenges for developing units of that nature sit within the reconstruction in the floodplain. So I'll just hand over to Bruce.
Yeah, perhaps the easiest is if I'll get either Kate or one of her staff from the trust. We meet with Mr. Dudney, we can talk him through, give him the background information so he's fully informed about what's happening and so on, and the reasons why the trust has got this approach. So I'm happy to broker that and facilitate that discussion if that would be helpful.
It would be helpful if that's acceptable to you, Mr. Dudney. I feel like you've made the effort of coming along, that you feel like it's on a deadline sale with the 17th of March. You saw this as an opportunity to bring it to our attention, and I would like staff to support you in understanding the decisions that have been made by OCHT, if that's acceptable.
Yes, I would welcome a discussion on it.
Great. Look, thank you very much for making your presentation this morning. It's what public participation is all about, and we really appreciate you taking the time and the effort to do so. And it's wonderful that you care about your community. So thank you.
Thank you for hearing me.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Bye-bye. Okay, the next is deputations by appointment, and we have Prue Miller and Louisa Eads from the Governor's Bay Jetty Restoration Trust, who are making a deputation on item 21, and we've got items on the documents published on the hub for councillors to follow the presentation. Good morning. That's Prue and Louisa, I think I can see. Welcome.
Oh, good morning.
You seem to be, you seem to have a view of your intended presentation.
We do.
Excellent.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak to our request for a community loan. I'm Prue, and this is Louisa. We're 2 of the 8 trustees sitting on the Governor's Bay Jetty Restoration Trust. As you can see, we're in front of this 300-metre long jetty at the head of Te Whakarapo, Littleton Harbour. The jetty has a very long history. It has deteriorated over the years, occasionally patched up by the Harbour Board, the Council and community volunteers. It was closed to the public in 2011.
In 2015, the Council Marine Structures report estimated the rebuild cost to be $7.8 million. And this was outside of the Council's budget at the time, and any decision to do anything was put on hold at that time. Members of the local community formed the trust with a mission to save the jetty. The Council agreed to sell the jetty to the trust for $1 so that the trust could take control of the project, manage the design and procurement, engage contractors, and complete the rebuild. To date, the Council has contributed $935,000 capital to this project. The Trust will be requesting further capital from Council on a dollar-for-dollar basis. We have now completed design, consenting and procurement, and we've chosen a contractor. We have a fixed price contract for the full demolition and rebuild, and we're just waiting to sign it. If the credit facility is approved by you today, then we can sign these contracts for the site works, and we will commence in August this year. Based on this fixed pricing, total project cost is $3.5 million.
We just want to be really clear from the outset that this application for a loan is not about any ability on our part to raise funds. In fact, we've already raised $900,000 in funds and pro bono services. This application is simply in the interest of best value for money by avoiding delay and securing the fixed pricing that we've got.
We certainly hope that we won't need to draw down on the loan at all. But if it's approved, it means we can sign the contract, fix the price, and start the rebuild in August. This will take our fundraising campaign to the next level, because we can say with total confidence to funders the rebuild will start this year.
We request that you view our application in light of all of the circumstances of this unique project. Please consider the project as a whole, not just the loan on its own. During the finalising of our design and commencement of procurement, COVID hit. As a result, there have been unprecedented material shortages and delays across the construction sector. Between 2015 and now, the sector has had a significant increase in labour and material costs, and these don't look set to stabilise anytime soon. The lead time for our Australian hardwood timber is 5 to 6 months. This order needs to be placed right now to retain our August start date.
We've investigated other options, like a staged rebuild or delaying the ordering of materials, but the increase in costs in this environment would most likely increase the total project cost to well beyond 3.5 million.
We have a community of professionals who have gifted much of their time and expertise. We've completed a thorough design and early contractor involvement process. We've been out to tender and obtain competitive pricing, whilst acknowledging local government procurement guidelines. We've negotiated ownership of all materials upon payment, allowing the council to take security if required. This is not a project in its infancy. The Trust has shown its project management abilities to date, and the project is now shovel-ready and affordable.
On completion of the project, of the rebuild, we will transfer the jetty back to the council for $1. The council will then have a brand new, compliant, one-of-a-kind jetty with an ongoing team of committed community members who have vested interest in ensuring the jetty's ongoing maintenance and protection so that it can be enjoyed today and by future generations, just as it has been for the past 150 years. This is a great example of a grassroots project, the community taking on responsibility for something that they want and love.
The key reasons for applying for this loan now are: if the loan is approved in principle, we can immediately enter into the construction and supply contracts for the rebuild. This is the only way to secure this current pricing and our start date of August. If we can't sign these contracts, then the delay would inevitably cause the total project cost to increase. And in current times, this could be significant.
If we can sign the construction contracts now, then in addition to the project cost savings, there's an added advantage of being able to announce a start date, which will spearhead the remainder of our fundraising plan by encouraging commitment as a matter of urgency to start in August. We can give confidence that this is actually happening.
The loan has minimal risk to council. If council commit in the next annual budget to further dollar-for-dollar commitment and the trust fundraises its minimum target, then the chance of needing to draw any of the loan is very low. It may only be required for contingency.
The trust can provide adequate security to the council, and the council can register this security on the PPSR to protect its interests. The trust assets will include $1.6 million worth of material, and that is the hardwood timber and stainless steel that we'll be ordering today if you approve the loan. The trust has shown commitment to this project, and we emphasise that this commitment is long term. The trust will retain ownership of the jetty until all outstanding loan amounts are repaid to the council in full, at which point the new and unencumbered jetty will be returned to the council and the trust will continue in its custodial role.
Approval of the loan allows the trust to secure our 2021 pricing and August start date, which also benefits council and ultimately the rate-paying community. Viewing our loan application in light of all of the circumstances of this whole project leads to the logical decision to approve the loan. Signing the contract now means the trust can deliver a brand new 300-metre long jetty to the council early next year, and it will cost the council just 22% of that original 7.8 million estimated back in 2015. To finish off, we want to leave you with a quote by Margaret Mead, which one of the council staff recommended we include in our fundraising proposal. "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." thank you for your time listening, and we welcome any questions.
I love that quote. I quote it often myself. Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's well used.
Yeah. Andrew.
Thank you very much, and thanks very much indeed for the presentation this morning as well. Clearly, if we were to turn down the application for the loan, that would lead, and you've made it very clear, to cost escalation, to delays, and to a general lack of security for the project. But I'll ask a more specific question. Would turning down this loan put the whole project and, in fact, the return of the completed jetty to council at risk?
Oh, look, possibly. The trustees on the board at the moment are all committed, and we will keep going. You know, we're in strange times. We know that. We will just keep going. But I mean, if we were to be all hit by a car tomorrow, there wouldn't be a trust. So I guess there's a slim risk that could happen. But be assured that we want to see this through, and we're just doing everything we can to make the project work.
And it will cost a lot more, so therefore it will take longer. So
we'll just draw it out.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No. Look, thank you very much, and thank you for what you're doing. I love the fact that the community have taken ownership of this project, and you know, every time I see another fundraising activity on the various pages that exist in Governor's Bay, you know, on Facebook, etc. I just my heart warms to the fact that it's community in action. You know, it's not a community sitting back having something done for them. It's the community proactively taking control of a situation and seeking to have things done. So I can't tell you the result of the consideration today because we haven't got to it yet, and we'll be getting to it later on this morning after the community board report. So as soon as that's on, that'll be the next item on the agenda. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So now we've got presentation of petitions. There are none.